Hello to all of you. I'm honored to be joining you today for the World Federation of Youth Clubs virtual conference to present this workshop, Safeguarding Children and Youth in Your Programs. My name is Julie Novak. I serve as the Vice President of Youth Protection with Big Brothers Big Sisters of America. I spent nearly my entire career dedicated to carrying out Big Brothers Big Sisters mission because I believe so strongly in the power of caring adults in the lives of children. I've been with Big Brothers Big Sisters of America for 17 years. I worked as a local Big Brothers Big Sisters affiliate CEO for 11 years, and prior to that, I worked in the domestic violence and sexual assault arena, providing direct services for 3 years. My work with survivors led me to my commitment to the violence prevention field. I still see the brave faces of the women and children that we served at our local domestic violence shelter where my office was housed. Those early experiences continually inspire me to do more of this important work every day. Let me first share a bit about who we are. Big Brothers Big Sisters one-to-one mentoring relationships support the critical social and emotional development needed to help build resilience and promote the mental health and well-being of the children our local agencies serve across America every year. Now more than ever, Big Brothers Big Sisters agencies are stepping up to find innovative ways in serving our communities to keep kids connected to caring adults. Nationwide, every year, our 230 plus agencies serve over 100,000 youth and their families through one-to-one caring adult bigs, all of which are volunteers. More than 5,000 skilled professional staff work across our network, providing support and training to children, families, and bigs. Over our long history, millions of lives have been affected by our work. Our agencies serve 5,000 plus communities across all 50 states. We are committed to serving the children and youth who need us the most. Across our network, 66% of littles are children of color. 74% receive free or reduced lunch from school. 55% live with only one parent, and 15% have one or more family members in jail, prison, on parole, or on probation. This graphic provides greater detail on our children and youth served, comparing little's exposure to a number of risk factors in contrast to nationwide averages in the general population. You can see from the margins shown on the graphic that we are tackling adversity head-on in Big Brothers Big Sisters local programs. Some of the risk factors listed include experiencing bullying, emotional issues, mental health challenges, family members experiencing substance abuse, and learning differences. Over the past 2 years, we've seen firsthand the importance of connection. We've all suffered the negative effects of isolation, loss, and hardship. For the families served by Big Brothers Big Sisters, and likely the children your organizations are serving as well, they've been especially hard hit by this pandemic we're all living in. Families have faced food insecurity and homelessness. Families are dealing with increased levels of stress and social isolation, domestic violence and health concerns with less supports. Mandated reports of child abuse and neglect declined at the outset of COVID because children did not have access to caring adults through schools and other YSOs or lifelines, as one of my colleagues in youth protection eloquently labeled the services that all of us provide to children, youth, and families. At the same time, self-reports of child abuse to US organizations like RAINN, the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network, increased through the time period when schools and YSOs were in lockdown. Children growing up in marginalized communities have been especially hard hit, experiencing profound levels of deep loss. With that background, I'd like to share Big Brothers Big Sisters of America's approach to youth protection. Like all of you, we believe that children and youth deserve to live in a world that makes them feel safe, cared for, and protected. Helping to ensure the safety and well-being in the life of every child that engages with one of our local agencies is our highest priority. That doesn't just mean that we're concerned about their safety while they're participating in our local programming. That means that we also work to address their safety and well-being in their daily lives. And like all of you, to conduct our work, we have to rely on caring adults to carry out our missions. We believe and we want to instill in our youth that most people are good. How do we work diligently to keep children and youth safe? That answer is complex and very comprehensive, and we only have so much time today. So what I'd like to do is provide you some high-level insights and resources that I hope you'll find helpful in implementing or strengthening your own youth protection initiatives. First, it's important to note that Big Brothers Big Sisters of America has been looking to experts for decades to integrate youth protection best practice into our local programming. Historically, we've relied on experts like federal law enforcement, the American Bar Association, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, the Nonprofit Risk Management Center, the Crimes Against Children Research Center, and the CDC, as well as our own internal examination into child safety-related incidents occurring in local programs, including incidents of abuse against children served within Big Brothers Big Sisters programs. In 2004, Big Brothers Big Sisters of America took part in a meeting of experts that resulted in a 2007 publication widely used by YSOs nationwide to establish effective policy, procedure, training, as well as reporting and response protocols to prevent and respond to reports of child abuse. We also took part in the development of the elements of effective practice for mentoring publication in collaboration with Mentor, designed specifically for use within mentoring programs. Unlike many YSOs, in our one-to-one mentoring programs, 2D leadership policies do not fit our programmatic model and would impede our ability to carry out our mission. Our youth protection model relies heavily on careful screening and selection of staff and volunteers working with youth, careful ongoing monitoring of adult-child relationships and interactions between individuals to ensure the relationships and behaviors are healthy, effective policy and procedure in child protection, and most importantly, in-depth training in child protection for everyone associated with the local program, including parents who are in the best position to monitor their child's relationship with their big. Here's a glimpse into how we approach training in child sexual abuse for parents enrolling their child in a local Big Brothers Big Sisters program. This video short is available on our national website under the Parent Resources tab.
Personal boundaries are rules we use to let others know what kind of things are okay and not okay to say or do to, with, or around us. Boundaries are important for everyone, especially for children and youth, who sometimes need the adults in their lives to help them figure out which boundaries work for them and how to communicate them to others. So what could a personal boundary look like? It could look like a parent letting their child know that the child has the right to decide how to say hello to family members. This may mean a hug for some people and a wave or high five for others. This helps children understand that personal boundaries can be different for different people, and they can change over time too. To help your child apply this boundary, you might practice with your child how to politely decline a hug or kiss on the cheek when their relative asks for one, and how to respond in an uncomfortable situation. Parents can help children enforce their personal boundaries by explaining to relatives before events that your child will decide how they want to say hello and goodbye. Children may need help communicating their boundaries and may feel more comfortable using nonverbal cues, such as backing away, to enforce their boundaries in the beginning. This can be an adjustment for everyone involved and might even feel uncomfortable at first. But it's important children have the ability to decide what feels right to them when setting their personal boundaries.
There are a number of international research-informed or research-based youth protection guides that have been developed with youth-serving organizations in mind. These guides provide a framework for your local programs to assess existing policy, procedure, and training, and other youth protection strategies against best practice models. In the next few slides, I'll highlight some examples that you may want to consult. This one from the Australia Royal Commission into Institutional Response to Child Sexual Abuse resulted from an investment of $500 million of research into effective youth protection practice within YSOs. The model is aligned with the principles in the International Convention of the Rights of the Child, which recognizes that children and young people, like adults, possess human rights. They also have the right to special protection because of their vulnerability to exploitation and abuse. Under the convention, a child is defined as every human being below 18 years of age. The resources shown here come from the Canadian Centre for Child Protection, the organization with responsibility for handling reports of child sexual exploitation in Canada, analogous to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children in the US. Their materials are very comprehensive and include training resources along with sample policies and an assessment guide to evaluate your own youth protection practices. There is a nominal cost associated with these materials, but they're well worth it. In late 2020, Johns Hopkins Moore Center for the Prevention of Child Sexual Abuse released a guide for YSOs that resulted from work with top researchers in the field of child sexual abuse prevention, in collaboration with youth protection experts from 4 large youth-serving organizations to carry out a comprehensive review of international research on effective practice to prevent child sexual abuse within youth-serving organizations, including the work of Australia's Royal Commission that I just mentioned. The guide serves as a useful tool to evaluate your own organizational practices and assess whether or not there are areas you could strengthen your youth protection systems based on your programmatic model. The 8 topical areas covered in depth by the guide are listed here, including a focus on child well-being, above all else, making training a cornerstone of your YSO's approach, increasing the monitoring of adult-child interactions, collaborating with children and parents, identifying safety concerns and generating solutions to specific organizational CSA safety risks, increasing YSO evaluation and accountability, addressing youth sexual behavior, and strengthening human resource development. Lastly, depending on your experience in child protection, you may not have ever been in a position to hear or respond to a disclosure of child sexual abuse. It's important that you understand the dynamics of child sexual abuse and disclosure, and that everyone involved with your organization knows how to respond. You may be the trusted adult a child chooses to disclose to someday, maybe even today. There are many reasons why a child may never disclose or may delay disclosures for decades. For a speed course in understanding this dynamic, I highly recommend this publication. Big Brothers Big Sisters of America has made a commitment through our nationwide strategic planning efforts to become a trauma-informed organization. To us, that means to a person, we all need to be aware of the prevalence of trauma in children's and families' lives, and we need to understand how what we do as individuals and as organizations can either be healing or it can be harmful. We worked with experts from the National Child Traumatic Stress Network and the National Child Protection Training Center to adapt our nationwide model of service delivery to meet SAMHSA's criteria to be a trauma-informed organization. In our service delivery model guide for local agencies, which provides detailed guidance on screening and selection of BIGs, enrolling littles and families, and providing careful monitoring of relationships, we also provide specific guidance on adapting policies, procedures, and training to ensure a trauma-informed approach, with each TIC strategy called out through the publication by this symbol. SAMHSA's model incorporates 6 guiding principles into the organization's approach, including safety, trustworthiness and transparency, peer support, collaboration and mutuality, empowerment, voice and choice, and cultural, historical, and gender issues. SAMHSA considers a program, organization, or system to be trauma-informed if the organization realizes the impact of trauma and the potential for recovery, recognizes the signs and symptoms of trauma, responds by integrating knowledge into policies, procedures, and practices, and lastly, seeks to actively resist re-traumatization. For us, that doesn't mean training all of our professional staff, BIGs, and parents to become counselors. It means raising awareness about trauma's prevalence, its effects, and providing basic training for lay people on how to best support a child or family who have been exposed to trauma. We believe it's important for every caring adult associated with our organization to understand the scope of the problem of children's exposure to trauma and to be ready to respond with the right supports to children and families. Research tells us that 26% of children will experience a traumatic event before the age of 4. Research from the US-based Crimes Against Children Research Center informs us that children report the following exposure to violence and victimization just within the past year alone. 58% of youth reported at least one exposure of violence. 15% of youth reported 6 or more types of direct or witness victimization. 2 in 5 were victims of at least one assault. 1 in 12 children witnessed family violence, and 1 in 20 children had been sexually victimized themselves. The stark reality is children are one of the most victimized populations in our societies. From research and experience, we know that children exposed to trauma may have difficulty expressing and regulating emotions, have intense reactions to situations, and struggle to calm themselves down, have difficulty problem solving, have trouble focusing, struggle to form healthy relationships, and are likely to suffer long-term negative effects on their physical and mental health. For those reasons, we offer training for our professional staff, BIGs, and parents that help to raise awareness of the prevalence and effects of adverse childhood experiences, pointing to the critical role that caring adults play in helping to heal trauma's impacts. We're not asking anyone to be a counselor or therapist. We're asking them to understand and care. Here's an example of a tip sheet we provide BIGs, created in partnership with Futures Without Violence. And here's a quick video excerpt from our TIC trainings for BIGs.
Imagine a terrible storm. The winds are fierce and destructive, debris flying everywhere. Now imagine you are in the middle of the storm. The storm is bad enough. You can barely stand in the wind. But the debris, it's coming from all sides, and you're trying to keep from being hit. You can't focus on getting out of the storm because you're constantly rerouting to deal with the debris. Just when you think the storm has passed, the winds pick back up, giving you no rest or relief from the stress you're experiencing. Now imagine this is just the first storm in a series of many. and you have to try to live a normal life while surviving the storm. For children who experience repeated traumatic events, this is reality. Being on high alert or in survival mode for just a day, even an hour, is exhausting to both mind and body. Think of the most stressful situation you've faced. Do you remember how you felt physically? Did your body tense up, your heart race, your mind? Now think about the moment when the stress was relieved, when you knew everything was going to be okay. Remember that sense of relief when every part of you relaxed? For children who experience toxic stress, this sense of relief never comes. Trauma is defined as experiences that cause intense physical and psychological stress reactions. It can refer to a single event, multiple events, or a set of circumstances experienced by an individual as physically and emotionally harmful or threatening. This experience has lasting adverse effects on the individual's physical, social, emotional, or spiritual well-being. Trauma can also be described as a combination of event, experience, and effect. The event is an actual danger or extreme threat of harm. The experience is a fight, flight, or freeze response. If one is not able to escape the extreme stressor, this overwhelms the brain and the body's ability to cope. This has the effect of causing a breakdown of the parts of the brain and body that normally work well together, resulting in a loss of capacity to control internal stress and emotional states and potentially long-term adverse effects. We all experience and process events in our lives differently. What is traumatic to one child may not be traumatic to another. Trauma can be a single event in a person's life, such as the death of a loved one. It can be a recurring scary event, such as physical or sexual abuse. And it can also be multiple traumas happening at the same time over and over again. In the next video, you will learn about toxic stress and how being exposed to toxic stress continually over a long period of time negatively impacts a child's development.
I love this message about the science of resilience and the tie to the healing role caring adults play in children's lives who've been exposed to trauma. Research consistently points out that the most common factor for children who developed resilience after exposure to trauma was the presence of at least one stable relationship with a supportive adult. Other factors included a sense of self-efficacy and perceived control, opportunities to strengthen adaptive skills and emotional regulation, sources of faith, hope, and cultural traditions. Our bigs, all of you, have a role to play in helping to build all of these resilience factors. And I love this quote as well from Dr. Jack Shunkoff, Harvard University. Resilience is not something you're born with. It's something that gets built over time. Before I close, I want to do a couple of things. First, I want to remind you that this work can be exhausting and can take a toll mentally, emotionally, and physically. I'm a huge dog lover, so I especially love this message. And I want you to remember, as you leave here today, to be like Lassie and take good care of yourselves. I also want to invite you to participate in our upcoming Virtual Youth Protection Summit, taking place in the afternoons, Eastern Time Zone, on April 5th through April 7th. I'll provide more information about registration to our colleagues at the World Federation of Youth Clubs in the next couple of weeks. This year's summit will feature leading experts from the organizations listed here. I've also provided session titles for you. Watch for more information and registration details in early March. I'll leave you with this for today, a powerful portrayal of the work that Big Brothers Big Sisters does every day. Thank you so much for joining us for this presentation today. I wish you all the best as you do your work in your local communities. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your conference. Take care.